And now on a different note. If the coronavirus has taught us one thing, it's to cherish our loved ones. The global pandemic has separated families and friends. So what happens when someone you love passes away an ocean apart? How do Israelis deal with the issue of estate planning and inheritance? And why is it a good idea for us all to have a will? Well, joining us with some legal insight is advocate Anat Levi of Cohen, Decker, Pex, and Bosch law offices. Hi, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So when we deal with estate management, how do we work the inheritance out if heirs are living abroad while the estate is here in Israel?
Well, actually, the location of the heirs doesn't influence the distribution of the estate. Usually, it's better to nominate or to appoint an estate manager that will distribute the estate to the heirs. Usually, it's better to take someone neutral and not someone that is related to the deceased, because sometimes when the deceased appoint in his will somebody from the family, it can be somebody that can be not neutral, and then we will have a conflict of interest. Somebody that is familiar with the law in Israel, with the law outside of Israel sometimes, and also professional and dealt with those kinds of estate management.
So if one of the heirs lives abroad but is entitled to his share of the estate, what happens then essentially?
Well, here there's another issue that it's not just the inheritance law in Israel, but the inheritance law in different countries that can come into effect, such as tax law that can influence the inheritance, because in Israel you don't have taxes on the inheritance, but in a different country you do have taxes, and therefore you need somebody that can understand these matters and can help the person, the heir, to receive the inheritance with less impact.
Now, could the inheritance go to the state? For example, if an heir who lives abroad doesn't claim his inheritance in Israel?
The answer is yes, but that's going to take a long time, and there's a unit at the Ministry of Justice, a unit that specializes in locating the heirs around the globe. And once you locate in them, you send them multiple notifications. Some of them do not wish to claim their share. They need to declare that, and it's irreversible. They cannot ask for it back, or they can just ignore it for years and years, and then eventually it will go to the state.
And what happens, I mean, we've heard stories of incidents like this. You know, what happens if someone doesn't believe that the will submitted, essentially, to the Registrar of Inheritance, I think that's what it's called, wasn't written or was tampered with, perhaps, or not signed by the deceased? What happens in cases like that?
So in cases like that, they can actually submit, of course, with someone who can deal with that, a lawyer that is familiar with that area of law, and submit an opposition to that will, but they will have to explain why they don't believe in that will. Do they really believe that somebody influenced that person? Do they really believe it's a fraudulent, it's not the real signature? Somebody forced him to sign something, and then, of course, they can submit an objection to that will.
So my final question is, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers are asking the same question, I mean, why is it so important to write a will, to have a will in the first place?
Yeah, it is very important to write a will. There's many reasons, but I'm just going to point to, if we're going to take an example of a young couple that accumulates stuff together and they wish to start their lives, and then something tragic happens. So you automatically believe that everything goes to the remaining spouse, when it's not the case, because usually you need to split whatever the couple have with the family of the deceased. I'm not going to say how much the share is, but you're not, you're left alone, and also you need to deal with, let's say if you have a house, then now you need to sell the house and split with the heirs, with the family of the deceased. There's another reason that automatically you also think that, after someone's death, you're going to divide everything among the heirs. But let's say if you have an elderly parent stayed alone and the kids wish to receive their share right now. So then the elderly will have to sell the house and split everything among the other heirs. So these are part of the reasons. There are many reasons why you should really write a will. Very recommended.
Absolutely. Advocate Anat Levi, thank you so much for your insight and for speaking with us today.
Thank you.